So our next guest, he's playing hurt here. He called a lot of extra basketball over the weekend, but he's here to do it because he's a close friend of mine, one of the great play-by-play voices of March Madness, and all these incredible games. Our friend Andrew Catalon joining us here on Watch DA Live. Cat, how you doing? How you feeling?
You know, it's I'm a little raspy. But I'm happy to be here. I love the Thurman Thomas picture behind you.
Yeah. The old school Bills. I mean, you know them well, calling Bills preseason games and calling regular season games up there. There's nothing like it. Those guys are all heroes up there. And how many extra sessions did you call this weekend?
Well, we had 4 games Thursday, and then yesterday we had the overtime game between NC State and Oakland, and then we had the double OT between Creighton and Oregon. So I got back to the hotel around 1 a.m. I really couldn't fall asleep before I had to get up at 6:30 for my flight home. So it's been an incredible 24 hours. I think I'm going to sleep pretty well tonight.
Man, that Oakland story, I mean, you and I were texting throughout the weekend on this, but Greg Kampe had been there 40 years. Gohlke had played 5 years of Division II basketball, become household names over the weekend, which is the magic of March. But you were around them. You saw them for a couple of days and saw them slay Kentucky. What was it like up close to talk to Coach Kampe and to see Gohlke and just to see them become the Cinderellas?
I mean, that's kind of what March Madness is all about, right? And not that I go into it rooting for a certain team, but when that team wins or when that team is winning and you can develop and further those storylines, those are the stories you love to tell. I mean, Kampe's story is incredible. He was hired at age 28. He's been there for 40 years. This is like his life. He's actually a fascinating guy. Some of the stories I didn't even get on the air. I mean, he almost died of sepsis. In 2017, he had a 106.3 fever. He was inducted into the inaugural National High School Football Hall of Fame this past summer. He played at Bowling Green. He could have signed with the Seahawks, but instead he took a assistant job at Toledo that paid him like $13,000. I mean, these are the stories that you live for. And Gohlke was incredible. Now, he didn't do it again last night. I mean, obviously, that was just what he did against Kentucky. We'll never forget, but he couldn't get it done against NC State. But, you know, that's one of the darlings, even though they won one and then lost. I think we'll always remember Greg Kampe and Jack Gohlke.
Totally. They are so of March. That highlight or one of the highlights of him hitting a 3 will always live. Your calls will always live. And you've seen some really good ones over the years. And NC State's not a small school, but they're sub 500 in the ACC. They got to win 5 freaking games in the league tournament. Then they rattle those off and they win 2 more to get to a Sweet 16. I don't know if they're the traditional Cinderella because they're a major conference, but NC State's one of the craziest stories we've seen in a long time in March Madness, right?
I mean, there was legitimate heat on the head coach and his job going into the ACC tournament. There was speculation that he could be out unless they won the ACC tournament for the first time since 1987, which they went out and did in dramatic fashion, 5 games in 5 days. Buzzer beater to force overtime against Virginia, beating North Carolina in the championship game. And then you're thinking, okay, they're going to run out of gas when they get to Pittsburgh. The opposite. I really thought that in overtime, Oakland had them where they wanted them. They wanted to wear them down, and that maybe this would be it for NC State. 7th game in 12 days. Somehow they figured out a way to get it done. I mean, we talked to Kevin Keats about this during the week. He said the weird thing is they've gotten better in the second half of games. So during this win streak, if you're thinking fatigue, he sees them stronger at the end of games. So they're on a wild ride right now. And hey, look, it's not always, and you were talking about this before I came on, about brackets and dominant teams and whatnot. It's not always the best team. It's the team that gets hot at the right time. And NC State is one of those teams right now.
It is so incredible. Pittsburgh seemed like it just had a bunch of really great crowds as well. I don't know if it was the games, but you had, Kentucky Wildcats fans travel. That Big Blue Nation is going to be all over. And yet in that Oakland game, the crowd had flipped, it seemed like, to Oakland, even though I'm sure it was predominantly Kentucky fans in the building. So the crowd seemed like for first round action and second round action, you got some really, really fun electric crowds. How was it in the building?
Yeah, it was electric. Gohlke said he's never been in a building like that before. Not that maybe he's experienced, obviously, the NCAA tournament, but I kind of felt that way too. I mean, every time Gohlke got the ball, everyone got on their feet. Every time DJ Burns of North Carolina touched it on Thursday night, the place erupted. I mean, there was a lot of characters and I don't want to say legends because it was just 1 week of the tournament, but really good stories that were developing and you know you can go to a site in a tournament where you got teams from far away, maybe the local fans don't buy up all the tickets. It was really the opposite here. You had teams like Kentucky and Akron and Oakland that could drive, and then you also had really good support from the Pittsburgh fans, and when they were in there, they're cheering for the underdogs. That's the Oakland support you heard. So it was a really cool mix in Pittsburgh.
It sounded it. Sounded it. Well, I appreciate you finding some time for us. And the way to really rest your vocal cords is you got to get your Zubaz on like you're in Western New York, and you got to, go crack a few light beers, throw yourself through a folding table in a Thurman Thomas jersey, and you'll feel like $1,000,000.
I probably will do that in a different version. I'll probably just jump into my bed
Okay.
and bury myself instead of under fire, a blanket.
That works as
But it's
well.
close.
That works as well. Andrew Catalon had amazing calls all weekend long for the Pittsburgh region in the CBS Sports broadcast of March Madness, and he's going to be in Dallas coming up for the regionals, right?
Don't know yet, actually. That is to be determined. I will be somewhere next week, one of the 4 sites, but I should know tonight, and I can't wait.
All right. Can't wait to see you, man. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
All right. Andrew Catalon, CBS Sports, joining us.